It all started so subtly, I almost missed it. My wife Sarah and I had been married for 8 years. We had our ups and downs, like any couple. But I always believed our foundation was solid. We were best friends, or so I thought. The change began about 6 months ago. Sarah, who had never shown much interest in the minute details of my job, suddenly started asking about my work schedule. At first, I was touched. I thought, wow, she's really taking an interest in my life, trying to connect more. "Hey, honey, what's your schedule like next week? Any late nights at the office?" she'd ask with a bright smile, while making coffee in the morning. I'd pull up my calendar, happy to share. "Looks like a late one on Tuesday. Probably won't be home until 9. And Thursday, I have that all-day conference downtown." She'd nod, her eyes thoughtful. "Okay, good to know. I'll plan my week around it." I felt a warmth spread through my chest. It felt like we were a team, coordinating our lives. But then, the questions became more frequent, more specific. It wasn't just about late nights anymore. "Are you taking your usual route home today? Will you be stopping by the gym after work on Friday? Is that client dinner definitely happening? Or could it be canceled?" It started to feel less like caring and more like information gathering. A tiny, nagging voice in the back of my head started to whisper, but I told it to shut up. I was being paranoid. This was my Sarah, the love of my life. The first real crack in my blissful ignorance appeared on a Tuesday, one of my scheduled late nights. I was supposed to be at the office until 9, but my final meeting ended unexpectedly early. I was thrilled. I decided to head home and surprise Sarah. Maybe we could order some takeout and watch a movie. I remember feeling excited as I pulled into our driveway around 7:30. The house was dark, which was odd. Sarah usually had every light on. I walked in, calling her name. "Sarah, honey, I'm home early." Silence. I checked the whole house. Her car was in the garage. Her purse was on the kitchen counter, but she was nowhere to be found. I tried calling her cell, and it went straight to voicemail. A knot of anxiety started to form in my stomach. An hour later, her car pulled out of the garage. I ran to the window, confused. A few minutes later, she walked in the front door, looking flustered. "Oh, you're home," she said, a little too brightly. "I thought you were working late." I asked her where she'd been. "Oh, I had a terrible headache and the house felt stuffy, so I went for a drive to clear my head," she explained, not quite meeting my eyes. "My phone died. Sorry." It sounded plausible, but something felt off. Why take her car out and then bring it back just to walk in the front door? And why was she dressed in a nice dress, just to go for a drive? I let it go, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The following weeks were a masterclass in gaslighting. Every time I had a late night or an out-of-town trip, something strange would happen. A friend would mention seeing her car parked near a downtown hotel. I'd find a receipt for a dinner for 2 from a restaurant I'd never been to, dated on a night I was working late. When I confronted her, she had an answer for everything. The friend was mistaken. It was a car that looked like hers. The receipt was from a lunch with her coworker, and she just accidentally took the wrong copy. She'd get angry, accusing me of being controlling and not trusting her. She'd cry, and I would end up being the one to apologize, feeling guilty for even doubting her. The constant questioning about my schedule continued, but now it had a sinister undertone. It wasn't about her planning her week. It was about her planning her secrets. Each question, "What time will you be home? Are you sure you're working all day Saturday?" felt like a pinprick, a tiny betrayal. I was giving her the blueprint to cheat on me. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Her care wasn't care at all. It was logistics. I needed proof. I couldn't live in this state of paranoid misery any longer. I felt sick doing it, like I was violating the very trust I was trying to confirm was broken. But I bought a small, voice-activated recorder. The next time I had a scheduled late night, I told her I had to stay even later than planned, until at least 10. Then, I parked my car a few blocks away and walked home around 8. I let myself in as quietly as I could and hid the recorder under the sofa in the living room before leaving again. That night, I didn't go back to the office. I sat in a 24-hour diner nursing a cup of coffee, my stomach churning. I went home just after 10, as I said I would. Sarah was on the couch, watching TV, and she greeted me with a kiss. "Long night?" she asked, her voice sweet. "The longest," I replied, my own voice feeling foreign. The next morning, after she left to run errands, I retrieved the recorder. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely press the play button, and then I heard it. Her voice followed by a man's voice I didn't recognize. They weren't just talking. I heard them laughing. I heard the clink of wine glasses. I heard her telling him how my stupid work conference was the perfect opportunity. Heard her talking about me, my schedule, my predictability. She complained that I was starting to get suspicious, and they both laughed. The man said I was a fool, and she agreed. Listening to that recording was the most painful experience of my life. Every loving word she'd ever said to me turned to ash in my memory. The past 8 years felt like a lie. The woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, was a stranger, and she had used my dedication to my job, my trust in her, as a weapon against me. I didn't confront her right away. I took the recording and went to a lawyer. I got my ducks in a row. A week later, I sat her down. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. Just said, "Sarah, I know." The color drained from her face. She started with the usual denials, the fake outrage. "Know what? What are you talking about? You're being paranoid again." That's when I pressed play. I didn't play the whole thing, just the part where she called me a fool. The silence in the room was deafening. There were no more lies she could tell. There was no way to twist the truth. It was all there in her own voice. The aftermath was messy, as you can imagine. The divorce was brutal. But as painful as it was also liberating. The constant anxiety, the feeling of walking on eggshells, the self-doubt, it all disappeared. I learned a hard lesson about trust and paying attention to the small details. Those little questions about my schedule weren't so little after all. They were the key that unlocked devastating truth. I'm still healing, but for the first time in a long time, I'm not looking over my shoulder. My schedule is my own again, and there are no more secrets hiding in the silence. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that you're not alone. And that finding the truth, no matter how painful, is the first step toward getting your life back.